Basically, these people thought that it would be a good idea to mess up the sound to make it seem like I'm speeding it up or something. And actually, it's going to work against them, because you've seen a lot of videos where I'm moving fast and there's no sound issues, no sound related playback issues. Now watch this. Let me show you from here. You're going to see it going the same speed on this phone, which doesn't even have an app to speed things up. It's no longer even connected to the internet. Okay, no editing app at all. Right? It's no longer even connected to the internet. I use my other iPhone. This one has a messed up screen. So now that was the 4600. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3. There's this one right here. Try to do this. Now I'm going to do it again, holding the watch while I do it. What I tell you pussies about it blowing up in your face? Quit trying to cheat. Quit causing playback issues. Quit hacking my computer. So I caught them again trying to manipulate the computer. So they playback, and this one doesn't seem that they're manipulating. Watch. Control. Whoa. That's what I'm talking about. Focus even no drugs. Start overshooting. Control. Whoa. That's what I'm talking about. Focus even no drugs. Okay, so the reason why I slowed down those chops was to show you that it's precision when you're talking about chops. So when you practice them, here's a little tip. Practice them stopping it at the point you strike, as well as doing it at normal speed and going through and hitting through your target. Fun phone. I deserve my rightful place, the top martial arts throne. But I accept it in the heavens, and in the heavens it is known. Who is the Skywalker? Just the cards I was dealt. Just that. Also keep in mind, I've noticed that it goes slower even though I have the watch. I think they're slowing it down just by a fraction of a second, hoping that you won't notice. I'm going to come out later with a video where I compare a watch like this to the video on YouTube, and we'll see over a period of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if there is a difference. And I'll start it at the same time. I'll wait till the second hands are lined up together, and then I'll start it. Now, I don't know the meaning of the psychological patches, or how the different ways they describe them to them, but this one is a Special Forces operations patch from Afghanistan. Let me double check. Yeah, Special Forces Pocket Patch Psychological Operations Course, Afghanistan. You can see that that's definitely a war horse. The dark definitely implies these are black ops. The horse moves in unpredictable ways is one way to look at it when you think of it as the chessboard or the greater operations. This one is a little bit more interesting. They did not give me an explanation for it. It says Teed Natick Lab. Now, think about it. Why do they have a lab if not drugs and things of this nature for unconventional warfare? You have something like a satellite in the sky. And this definitely seems to verify things that I haven't really experienced myself, but, you know, voice to skull, synthetic telepathy, you know, satellite harassment. You have something that looks like a satellite in the air, and there's these beams coming off. There's a pyramid. There's a pink surrounding the blue, which shows you the sort of gay, gender feminist kind of agenda. That's what I think of, at least. And of course it says psychological operations on the bottom. So I think that when you look at the patches, they tell the tale that gang stalking is real, and some of the main people doing it are the military. And this of course makes sense. A lot of police officers are former military. A lot of staff at the psych wards, hospital orderlies to, you know, those guys who restrain people are military. A lot of people report helicopters, and there has been an increase of air traffic over my house. Military helicopters, several of them at the same time in formation. I've seen this growing up here as well, but not in such volume and frequency. You know, it's such consistency. Even right now, there's some sort of an aircraft flying over. I don't know how well you can hear it. And they're Army helicopters, and there's people with Army license plates. And so it does seem to bring a lot of credence, and it does seem to suggest that the people who complain of directed energy weapons are telling the truth. And we, of course, have a lot of these experiments on YouTube that also suggest this. Where we see, you know, Army experiments. They have videos on YouTube, rather, where and they're using it on political dissidents. So between the patches, the guerrilla warfare book, I think it's quite absurd to automatically assume that somebody isn't telling the truth. And when you see the great volume of people from all walks of life describing the same thing. Now, I've dealt with the mentally ill all my life, pretty much, you know, for a long, long time. I went to reform school. I went to a behavior modification wilderness program. Most of the people they label as mentally ill are quite logical, and they're very much in reality. Less than 1% of people have some sort of a brain damage or, you know, some sort of drug-induced severe mental illness. And even with them, they have a certain ability to communicate reality to you. What you don't see is a large consistency with their stories. You don't see people explaining things the same exact way. You don't see people reporting things the same exact way. So as soon as I saw that one of the descriptions for schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, was the belief that the government was after someone, automatically I knew that there's two levels of it. One is someone who's completely drugged, who's in a crazy paranoid state of mind, who actually has what you might call mental illness, which is consistent with what they're describing. That actually does exist. I've seen that myself. I've seen videos that I'm convinced are showing someone who actually believes the government is after them when they're not. But with mental health's long history of psychiatric abuse, their affiliation with secret societies and the CIA, and the rational sorts of people I've seen explaining these things. You know, when you look at paranoid schizophrenia, you know, it's ridiculous to think that this is all in their head. And of course, I've proven that there's something going on with me, and it's the same sorts of groups that have access to this technology that many people are complaining of. So I'm 100% convinced that yes, they are using directed energy weapons on people covertly. They are using synthetic telepathy, and they are using voice to skull. I am completely convinced. I did not experience these things myself. If it does happen, it's not noticeable enough for me to, you know, really say that it's happening. Also, when you see paranoid schizophrenia, you usually see an anxiety associated with it. You know, people are very agitated. Oh, the government's coming to get me. The government, you know, like that, you know, right? You see that kind of thing. They have their blood pumping through their brains. Excuse me, I heard something. Noise outside. Something fell down. So the blood is pumping through their brain. Okay, probably just something that fell down. But when I first heard it, it sounded right outside my door. So the blood is really pumping to their brain. Their adrenaline's going. They're really worked up, right? And they're like, they're coming to get me. You know, that is very typical textbook paranoid schizophrenia. This kind of calm, like, yeah, they're doing this to me. I'm used to it. You know, it's not really consistent with that. And I know, I've dealt with people who do drugs as well. When they're tripping off drugs, whether they've been taking meth or shrooms for years, you know, when they're having a bad trip, they have that rush, you know, that, oh my goodness, you know, they're tripping out, right? And that's consistent, even though on some level they know it's the drugs, but they can't help but feel that way. That is paranoid schizophrenia. Anything else is a very questionable state of mind. There are people who are calm, who are paranoid schizophrenics, but it is extremely rare. And the amount of people that I've come across who are calm, the majority of people who are complaining of the same thing are doing it in a very calm and collected way. Then there's people who seem like perps, you know, who might not be so calm. So that is a key element that's missing here. You know, when you look at the paranoid schizophrenia, you wouldn't see some sort of like a 98% of them calm versus 2% of them, you know, agitated. It wouldn't be anywhere near that. So when you look at the evidence, you know, it is absurd to say that these people are all suffering from the same disorder and they have the same delusions and they just happen to be based in reality, that, you know, on things that actually exist. You know, and when you see paranoid schizophrenics also, they say things in a way that doesn't make sense. They're like, there's someone in the bushes. And it's like, there's no one there, calm down. There's someone there. You know, they have this ridiculous idea. They'll see shadow people or something and they'll flip out, you know. And again, I've dealt with people on meth when I used to hang out in the ghettos and so on. And these people would call people shadow people, right? And you could definitively prove that there was nothing there. And they would still flip out. And they, on some level, themselves knew that there was nothing there. You know, but at the same time, they were paranoid. It's like they know that you're right when you say there's nothing there, but it's such a scary state of mind to be in that they can't help but act agitated, paranoid, and stressed. So when you truly examine this thing and you break it down, you know, how cruel, insensitive, and just unfair is it to look at rational-minded people, many of them very educated, who have experienced not only the same general types of things, but very specific types of things in a series of things. Like there will be, you know, the electronic harassment, there will be the stalking, there will be the directed energy weapons, you know, them being shocked, you know, and it's a very consistent. In all my years in dealing with the streets, I have never, ever seen mentally ill people with such consistency in their stories with other mentally ill people, nor have I ever seen people who are on drugs who consistently say that and maintain their story. When they become sober, they say, well, yeah, I know it was just in my head. It was the shadow people. When people come off shrooms, they say, yes, I know it was just in my head, but it was real. It seemed real to me, you know. And that's another thing about people with quote-unquote mental illness or who suffer from psychosis, schizoaffective, schizophrenia. When they're not having an episode, they display an ability to say, you know what, there's something wrong with me, I need help. We don't see that here. So it's a very straightforward case of government harassment, the political abuse of technology, the political abuse of the military and law enforcement, and the illegal group activities that involve political groups, universities, and of course we've seen this with the MK Ultra as well. So when I read the New York Times article, it was really ridiculous what they were claiming. They were saying that yes, these people cite MK Ultra as if it is not a valid argument to make. Especially those of us who live in my area. When you live in the center of COINTELPRO, the Black Panthers in Oakland were the most targeted. When you live in the center of MK Ultra activity, And that is insane. And I'll leave you with this thought. To say that it is in their head automatically, it must be in their head, that they're most likely delusional, is like saying someone who lives in, Idaho by Lake Hayden, or Hayden Lake, where the skinhead compound used to be, or may or may not still be, I don't know, I haven't looked into it, and saying, well, some bunch of skinheads are following me around. Or living in a very racist town in the South with a long history of Klan activity and active Klan members, and you automatically assume that someone's delusional when they say there's a bunch of racist white people give me a hard time. I mean, it is absolutely insane to say that. You may as well say to someone on a military base that it's in your head that there's military personnel all around you. Thank you.